NFL rumors and news today are presented by Manscaped. When you head over to manscaped.com/chat, you will get 20% off and free shipping on all of Manscaped's fantastic men's grooming products. We thank Manscaped for sponsoring today's show. Let's chat to Jadeveon Clowney and the Cleveland Browns now. The report out of ESPN, Diana Rossini, says the Browns and Clowney are in talks on a contract as we speak. And on top of this, the report from NFL Network is that Clowney is set to visit the team on Wednesday, flying in Tuesday night. The previous plan was that Clowney would fly in Sunday and then have his visit today on Monday. Unfortunately, something went wrong and the flight got delayed and Clowney was not able to make it. Insert your jokes about Clowney not showing up on Sundays. But regardless, there is thank you for understanding for that one. There does appear to be at least some momentum here regarding Clowney and the Cleveland Browns. Now remember, the Browns tried to acquire Clowney last year. They tried to sign him. He picked the Tennessee Titans instead. And then he was bad for the Tennessee Titans. He did not have a very good showing in Tennessee. He just struggled across the board. Nothing seemed to go his way in terms of production. Clowney did not have anything going the way that he planned to. 0 sacks in 8 games, 19 tackles, and 4 tackles for loss. That is not the level of production that anyone associated with Clowney or Tennessee was hoping for. So Clowney's contract value unquestionably has dipped. There's no way around that from the Browns and Clowney's perspective. But he does still fill a need for Cleveland, where yes, you have Myles Garrett, and in Cleveland, Clowney would not need to be the number one focal point of the pass rush. He would be the second best guy behind Clowney. Now remember, the Browns also brought in Takk McKinley. They have Porter Gustin, Joe Jackson. It's not great. You probably don't want to ever start Takk McKinley. They've been linked to some edge rushers in the NFL draft. You could still sign Clowney, probably on a 1-year deal, and then still draft somebody early. So from a need perspective, Clowney does check off that box for the Cleveland Browns. Now, another report from ESPN, this time Jeremy Fowler, mentioned these 3 teams as at least monitoring the Clowney market. There's the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Indianapolis Colts. The Browns appear to, at least as we speak, be the front runner to land Clowney. Now, I will make another note here. The NFL deadline for comp picks impacting that formula for players being signed, rapidly approaching on April 27th. So we'll see if Clowney gets a contract before that, or if the Browns and Clowney hush-hush agree to hold off on that one. The physical side of it will also be important for Clowney, given that he played in just half the season in 2020. So acknowledging that the Browns seem to be the favorite right now, are you going with the Cleveland Browns or the field as it relates to where will Clowney sign? Get your votes in for me. Type B for the Browns or type O for other. It is time now for our yearly Odell Beckham trade rumor here. Once again, Diana Rossini of ESPN, when asked about it on Get Up, said that the Browns will listen if teams call them about an Odell Beckham trade. However, the Cleveland Browns are not looking to trade OBJ at this point. Now, there have consistently been, Browns and Odell Beckham trade rumors for as long as in ever. Even after he signed that record-setting deal with the Giants, there were still trade rumors around OBJ, and those have followed him for every offseason since then. What makes things complicated here is that Odell Beckham's coming off an injury, and the Browns' offense improved without Odell Beckham, although how much of that was because they didn't have Odell Beckham, or just because in a COVID-shortened offseason, it took the offense a little bit longer to get flowing. Regardless, I swear every single year, if not multiple times a year, there is an Odell Beckham trade rumor of some sort, probably because other teams, other fan bases would love to try and acquire OBJ on the cheap. I don't really buy it, because I think for Cleveland, a team that is trying to contend, OBJ makes that team better. A new regime in charge makes it somewhat possible, but I don't think Cleveland's going to sell Beckham right now. Because moving on from OBJ at this point would be selling about as low as his value could possibly be. Maybe if Odell Beckham has a breakout year, or I should say rebound year, maybe they could revisit that. And yes, Beckham did not have a great season for Cleveland, and the offense was better once he got hurt, but they also just had better play on offense. I don't know how much of that is to be blamed on top of OBJ. And if the Browns were to move on from Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I like Higgins, I like DPJ as my third or fourth receiver. I don't like them as my number one or number two alongside Jarvis Landry. Moving on from Beckham would make the Browns' number one need by a significant margin the wide receiver spot, especially if they're able to land Clowney. So I don't really buy the, Browns are just going to give away Odell Beckham stuff I keep seeing. But you guys can make your own predictions for me in the comments section. What are the Browns going to do with Odell Beckham Jr.? A fun little weigh-in here. Type OBJ if you think, yes, the Browns will end up trading him, or type in no BJ. Get it? It's funny. If the Browns will not trade Odell Beckham. I'm going no BJ. I think they keep him for at least one more year because the value's not right. That doesn't make sense, I think, from Cleveland's perspective, barring a rather incredible offer from a different team, which I don't think is going to come right now. And then next year we can do the whole Odell Beckham trade rumor once again. As mentioned, today's show is made possible by Manscaped. When you go to manscaped.com/chat, you will get 20% off and free shipping on all of Manscaped's fantastic men's grooming products, including the Lawnmower 3.0. It's the best men's grooming tool out there. So if you don't want to have it get cut or tug or anything like that, you want a nice, clean, shaven downstairs area, which every lady wants. No one wants a bunch of hair down there. Get the Lawnmower 3.0 at manscaped.com/chat. 20% off and free shipping on not just that Lawnmower 3.0, but they got boxers. They got a nice traveling kit as part of their perfect package deal. They've got ball deodorant. They've got ball toner as well, because let's be honest, it gets a little sweaty and smelly down there sometimes. So head over to manscaped.com/chat today. That link will be in the comments and in the description, where you can get 20% off and free shipping on all the great Manscaped products. To Aaron Rodgers now here, where there's an interesting note that I wanted to get into because I find it curious is maybe the right word to use there. ESPN reports that the Packers have told agents of other players that they're waiting on moves of other players and extensions in free agency because, well, they got to get Rodgers' deal figured out, right? Now, the Packers can save $9.1 million with a restructure. And I think this is the most important part, what I'm about to say. The Packers can make that money appear without asking Rodgers. The way his contract is written, the ability to turn his base salary into a signing bonus and save that $9.1 million does not require Rodgers' approval. It can simply be done by letting him know that they've done so. The fact that the Packers haven't done that, it at least leaves the door open to a departure next year. Because not doing it means that it keeps the possibility of, hey, we're not going to eat all this extra dead money by saving money for the short term. Rodgers, I think, would be down because he wants to win right now. But if the Packers are keeping the door open of a potential, trade at some point next year, well, then they're not going to want to restructure his deal. So that's some connecting of the dots there. But Rodgers made it pretty clear before. He doesn't know if he's going to be with Green Bay forever. He might not retire as a Packer, and that move was made pretty clear when they drafted Jordan Love, unless Jordan Love ends up being terrible. So how many more years do you think Rodgers will end up playing for the Green Bay Packers? Make your predictions for me in the comments. Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever? Get your votes in the comments. Now, if the Packers do trade Rodgers, or if there are other NFL trades before, during, or after the NFL draft, well, guess what? We're going to let you guys know. We got NFL videos every single day here on Chat Sports. So if you want to have some fun with us, sometimes it's my bad jokes, but either way, it's fun as far as I'm concerned. hit that big red button and subscribe. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's dive into Teddy Bridgewater. Could he be traded? And could the Denver Broncos be a possibility as a fit? Producer Sam, our Broncos fan, already shaking his head. He does not like it. But this report comes to us from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, who says the Broncos could trade for Teddy Bridgewater. As we all know, as we've mentioned many a time here on the show, the Denver Broncos have wanted to add competition for Drew Lock. They were kind of involved in the Matthew Stafford conversations. They had at least been linked to Sam Darnold. Didn't appear to be that much interest there in the end. So Bridgewater's the next quarterback up on the trade market, right? Because the Panthers got Sam Darnold. Bridgewater's on his way out. So pick a quarterback before we go too far in depth on this one. Who would you rather have as the Denver Broncos starting quarterback? Type B for Teddy Bridgewater or type in L for Drew Lock. Get your votes in for me in the comments section. Now, I speak for producer Sam here. He doesn't like this idea of a trade because Bridgewater, at his $17 million salary, wasn't that great. At least 17 for this upcoming year, wasn't that great this past year. Good completion percentage, not that many touchdowns, too many interceptions. The QBR was fine, 64.1. It's better than what Drew Lock has put together in his NFL career. You can compare the two kind of briefly here, but Lock's completion percentage dipped. The yards were better, but the yards per attempt were about the same. The touchdown-interception ratio is way too close to 1. The QBR is 49.2. That's not quite what you're searching for if you're Denver. Is Bridgewater an upgrade? Maybe. If you could get his salary, which is set to be $17 million right now, and let Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater compete for a roster spot and the number one quarterback job, because let's be honest, I think we'd all agree that Bridgewater is much better than Brett Rippon or Jeff Driscoll. From a pure just player competition, talent level perspective, Bridgewater and Lock is better than just Drew Lock. It's up for debate who is better as the starting quarterback, but that base salary is an issue. There's a pretty good amount of that already guaranteed for Teddy Bridgewater. That's why the Panthers can't really cut him, plus their signing bonus stuff. If the Denver Broncos could trade for Bridgewater, give up, let's say, a 5th-round pick, somewhere in there, and they were to then get Bridgewater's base salary down from 17, let's say they cut it in over half, it's down to 7. His cap charge ends up being about $8 million with some roster bonuses stuff. Is a 5th-round pick and paying Bridgewater $8 million? Hypothetically, of course, here. Does that work out in the end for those two parties? Maybe. And for Bridgewater, assuming Denver does not go out and get a quarterback in the NFL draft, would probably be his best shot right now in the NFL market to be a starter this year. So we'll keep an eye out for Bridgewater. Carolina would love to trade him. The money's an issue. And frankly, I don't know how much of an interest there's going to be around the NFL because of that contract. The Baltimore Ravens are bringing in Justin Houston for a visit this coming week on Tuesday, to be exact. It's an interesting potential move for a couple different reasons. For starters, the Ravens have lost some key players this offseason, right? Matthew Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, they both go elsewhere, to the Patriots and Raiders respectively. And that leaves the Ravens rather thin at the edge rusher spot. Both thin, young, and also unproven. What makes things even more interesting here for the Ravens is that Justin Houston is a free agent. And the deadline for free agents, not players cut, just pure free agents, the deadline for the signing of those players to stop impacting moves as it relates to the NFL Draft's comp pick process is April 27th. So the Ravens, they're bringing in Houston. I'm not sure they'd make a move. As of right now, they're in line to get 2 comp picks, and projected, of course, in the 4th round. That's pretty good. I don't know if you give him a 4th-round pick for Houston, knowing you could probably get him, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whatever. But Houston would be a good fit for this team. He can be a stand-up edge rusher. Yes, he is older, but he produced fairly well for the Colts in more of a pass rusher rotation role there. 8 tackles for loss, 8 sacks as well. what the Ravens have right now at the edge rusher spot is very thin. There's Pernell McPhee, an older guy. Tyus Bowser, they did bring back, who has some promise, but a bit unproven. And then Jalen Ferguson, who's very young, a second-year guy, I believe, and hasn't quite shown everything you're searching for there. So because of that, I think Houston does make some sense. I think we've seen this more and more in the NFL. Teams being fully aware, especially for older guys like Justin Houston, being aware of that comp pick formula game. So here's what they'll probably do. Bring in Justin Houston for the visit on Tuesday. If they're really, really impressed, then they'll just sign him and risk losing that 4th-round comp pick. Or I would argue what would be a bit more likely is they say, Justin, we're highly intrigued. We're going to see how the NFL draft goes. And if we end up taking an edge rusher in round 1 or maybe round 2, we're going to pass on this. If, however, we don't, we would love to bring you in at a contract about this cost, and it gets done rather quickly after the NFL draft. Houston would be a good player for the Ravens. Yes, he's aging, but it can still help. 8 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, that still carries value in today's NFL. Frankly, I'm a little bit surprised there hasn't been more interest in Justin Houston. But what do we know about the NFL, folks? They are ageist, fair or not, and the older guys don't quite get the same opportunities that the younger guys do. So Houston is flying in, visit on Tuesday with the Baltimore Ravens, and we will see what level of interest and how quickly the deal hypothetically ends up getting done.